Everybody, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to use a database with Discord.js so that you can create a simple ranking system. We're going to have commands that you can show how to make how to check your stats, how to promote a user using roles so that only moderators can promote or demote users. And we'll also have a command so that you can check in your current server who has the high score. If you check it out here, we can see we promote our rank. If we call the stats command, you can check your rank, and when you call for high score, it'll give you a list of all the users in the servers ranked by their score. So this is really a building block tutorial, because once you're done, you'll have a template basically, so that if you want to make something different or modified, you can just use this basic formula with these tools that I'll show you how to use, and you'll be able to make some pretty cool stuff. So let's get started. Alright, so here we are with our basic setup. What we have here is a basic installation of our Discord client, and then a message event listener that we'll be using for our ranking bot. Some things you need to do to set up. If you don't understand what's going on here, be sure to check out my overall tutorial for the basics of Discord.js. I'll have a link to that in the description. In addition, once you have all this, you're going to want to install a library called KeyV, which is here, Discord.js, SQLite 3, and then KeyV/SQLite, so that we can take advantage of that built-in database. If you're using the same REPLite or Replit, however that's pronounced, you can just go in here and type it in and search for it. Otherwise, if you're using your own text editor, you can just use npm to install those packages. So now we're inside this. We're going to have like a helper file for our database functions. So we have main, and we'll import that later. What we're going to do here is do const SQLite3, and we're going to import that SQLite package, and this is how we're going to create our database. SQLite3 and dot verbose. Now we're going to create a function for export. We're just going to call this create. We're going to run this once over here to make our actual database file. Set that equal to a plain function. We'll do let database equal. It's going to be new SQLite3 dot database. And then you can name this whatever you want. So we're going to do /. We're just going to call this test db dot SQLite. And then we're just going to do db dot close. So all this is doing is creating, when we run this, a database file that we'll use inside our actual Discord bot. Then we need to export, so we're going to do module.exports equals, we're just going to do create. So let's run this quick. It won't do anything. And now we can import this in our console. So do var db equals require. We're going to do /db.js. Make sure you close that parentheses. We're going to do db.create. We hit enter. We can see now we have our database file over here. Let's head back to our main file. And we also got to, I just realized I forgot, bot.login. You want to pass in your token function there so we can actually log into our server. Let's clear this. And now what we want to do is we can create the framework for our actual command. So first we're going to do if command equals, and we'll do stats. So this is going to be the command we use. If a user wants to check their stats, that'll be where they do it. They'll type in that keyword. Do if command equals promote. That'll be the command for allowing a moderator to boost somebody's rank. Then command equals demote This is just the opposite. We're going to be reusing a lot of code there because it's pretty much just the inverse operation. And the last thing we're going to do is if command equals high score, and this will pull out the top 5 people from the database, and it'll list it using an embed so that anybody can call this, and it'll show who has the highest score on the server. Next, we need to create our keyv client so that we can actually use this database. So underneath here, we'll do const keyv equals new keyv, and we're going to do sqlite hyphen backslashes, and then just the name of our database. So whatever you name this here, it doesn't have to be this exactly. You just want to make sure this matches the naming here. And we're also going to do, just to make sure we don't get any errors, you can do keyv.on. You do error, and then you're going to pass a callback. So just if error, this callback function will log that error. We shouldn't have any issues here, but I guess it's just safer to put that there. Now let's go down. We'll start off with our promote and demote, since we need to have scores in our database before we can bother with checking our stats or the high score. There's quite a bit of code here, so I'm just going to write this out and fast forward through it so you don't waste your time watching me type, and then I'll go over everything line by line. Let's test this out, make sure it works. We're going to start and stop our server, make sure our bot's logged in. We're going here. First, we're going to do promote. First argument is how many ranks we want them to increase. So we'll just start with 10. And then we have to mention a user. So we're going to use this test account. And if we look at it now, we can see there's no role. And since we're increasing it by 10, which is our level that we want to make people a moderator, we hit enter. If we go over here now, we can see that moderator role is automatically applied. Now if we do the opposite, we do demote, let's demote by 100 and hit enter. If we go over here again, we can see that mod role is gone. So if somebody abuses their privileges as a moderator or whatever, or any role you want to set, this automatically, if we go through the code, it will remove that. So now let's look through this line by line, and you can actually copy this into your editor as we go. So the first thing we do is we actually check if the person calling it themselves is a moderator. And so we're doing the person who sent the message, we grab their member object, we check their roles, and we use this ID. So this is something I go over in that that Discord.js tutorial that I linked below and talked about earlier. The way you do that is you go to your server settings, your roles, and to grab that role, you copy and paste and get the ID. So that's what we're using, is this ID for the moderator role. We automatically, if they don't have that role, we just return. We don't want it to do anything. We don't want any random person to be able to increase or decrease somebody's ranks, because obviously that'll lead to abuse. Next thing we want to do is verify that a user is mentioned. It's like right here. We want to make sure there's actually somebody mentioned, otherwise we don't want to do anything. So we check, we grab for mentioned users. If there is not a user, so if there's nothing mentioned, this will return a null object. You just want to say no user mentioned and return. Once we get here, we're going to actually grab that rank. So this is where we use keyv. So we're going to do get, and our key is user.username. So what this actually is, this library, is it's a wrapper around a database, and it gives us a key value, that's why it's called that we can use to store information. So what we do is get, so we do username, we're using the mentioned user's name as our key. If that returns false, which means their name doesn't exist yet in the database, we're going to set their name. So we're going to use username.username as the key. The value by default to start off will be 1. And then once that's set, we want to actually grab it. So we just repeat this command here. Once it's been created in the database, then we grab it again. Underneath here, we have default by 1. So this is this first argument. If we don't pass any number here, it will default to 1, and that's what we're checking here. So arguments.length, if it's more than just the mentioned user object, we'll grab that integer, the first argument, we'll convert it from a string to an actual number, and then we'll reset this value. Next, we have our new rank, which is obviously rank val, which is our old one, plus the new number that just got passed in, and then we do await, and we set that. So again, we use their name so that we can update that value in the database. And also, it's important, these awaits here, this is asynchronous, so you want to make sure if you didn't, that for our event listener, we want the callback to be async here, so you can use that. Next up, we're just going to call this checker. So we grab the updated value, and this can be anything here. I'm just using 10 is our number, and I'm also only have one example, but so for here, what we do is if their rank, their updated rank is more than 10, we're going to give them this moderation role. So we do mod role, we grab our guild, which is the server, we look for all the roles, and then we find, so we're going to use all the roles, we'll loop through however many you have, and we're looking for the role where the name is moderator. We grab the mention, so this is, instead of grabbing the user mention, we grab their member object, and we do member.roles.add this role we got here. So this is something that's very versatile. You don't have to use this code specifically, but you could have multiple ranks here, where so instead of just one where it's 10, you could have rank 5, and then you could have another conditional where if they're rank 15, rank 20, and depending on that, you can give them more roles. You could DM them a message with a file, some sort of special prize kind of, however you want to do that. It's pretty much, it's going to be the same kind of template, or you can, inside this, where you have your rank thresholds, you can change whatever you want. For the demote command, it's almost identical, and you could probably clean this up and save a lot of lines of code by wrapping all this checking stuff into a function. But for now, it really doesn't matter. The only real difference here is where we subtract. Since we're demoting, we want to subtract the number instead of adding it. And then also, instead of checking if it's larger, we're checking if our new value is less than 10. We want to make sure to go in and same deal, we want to actually remove that role if they have it. Next, let's work on that stats command up here so that any user can type in this command and it'll give them a little card showing where they're ranked at. So first up, we're going to grab the user, so const user equals message dot author. We don't need to check for a moderation role here because anybody can do this. We're going to do const rank equals await key v.get. Same thing here. We're going to grab their username. Again, we're going to reuse some code here where if that rank equals false, we're going to just automatically create a value for them. So we're going to set their data here, and then again, just actually we need to make this, we can't adjust, so it's got to be let rank, so we can modify that, equals await key v.get, and same thing. So grab that updated value. Below that, we're going to do let embed equal, and we're actually up here, let's create that. We're just going to create a function so our code is a little bit cleaner. We're going to call it stat embed equals a function. We're going to make that async. And we're also going to pass the username and rank. So what we're going to do is call that here. So we'll do await stat embed, and we'll pass username and our rank value. Then up here we can use that. Do let embed equal new discord dot message embed, going to do embed.set title. We're going to pass that a template string, so it's going to be ranking for our username. This is where it's dynamically going to put in their username there. And below that, we're going to do embed.set description. We're going to do the same thing, those backticks. We're going to do their score is, and we're just going to pass in rank. And then we return that embed object. Let's return embed. So we call that there, that'll return, and then we reply with this. So we do message.reply. We're going to just use that embed object, and the library Discord.js will take care of that for us. And actually, we want to do channel.send, not reply. Instead of sending it directly to the user, we'll send it to the channel. So let's restart this. You can see we get this card, but our score is undefined. Let's see why that is. So the issue is actually this right here. Instead of false, the return when there's nothing here is actually undefined. So that's a simple fix. And we also want to, you're going to want to go down here and change these as well. So undefined, and where's the other one? Right here. So that's a pretty simple fix. I just hadn't realized. So we're going to stop this, restart. If we run this again, we can see now it sets to 1. And if I promote, so if I promote myself, and then run stats again, you see it's up to 11 now. So this is working properly. And this actually might be something you want to add in for your own bot, is that so you can't promote yourself. You might want to add an additional check. That's just something I realized might be worthwhile. So in addition to making sure they have the role, you might also want to make sure that the user mentioned doesn't match the author of the message. So that might be something, a little other feature for you to add. So now we're on to the last command that we're going to work on, which is our high score. So first thing we're going to need to do is we need to be able to grab all the keys in the database, and that's something we actually, KeyV doesn't have that built in, so we'll have to go back to our database.js. We're going to create a select command. So we're going to do const select equals, let's create another function that we'll export. Do let db equal, we're just going to copy and paste this right here. Now we're going to do let final. It's going to be our array of data. We're going to create a wrapper function, const wrap equals. This is so that we can return a promise, so we can pull out that data. We're going to return new promise. Inside that is another function, so we're going to do our resolve and reject. You don't really need to know this, but this is, we'll return this if there's no errors. This is what we'll return. So resolve, reject, and then in here is going to be our code. So we're going to do db.all. This will select, and we're going to pass in some SQL. So you can just copy this, you don't need to know it. So we're going to do select all from KeyV. This is the default table in our database. That's what's created. So our entries right now will just be the 2 users, my test account and the account I'm actually using in Discord to make those commands. Theoretically, this could hold all, like if you have hundreds or thousands of users on your Discord server, this table will hold all that information. So we're going to do pass an empty array and then a callback function. So error rows, we don't need to worry about this. This is in case there was a database error. This is what we're going to be working with, is the rows. So rows dot for each. So for each of those rows, we're going to do row final dot push row. So what's going on here? It's pretty ugly code, but we got to do it just because the way this function works is it makes it tough if we don't use this promise. So we're grabbing all of our users and we're pushing it onto this array. Then underneath here, we're going to do resolve, and then the return value will be this final array. Under here, we're going to do select, we're going to export that. We also have to do right here, we want to return wrap. We're going to call that wrap function. Alright, so now we can go back to our index. We're going to want to import, so we're going to do const db equals require /db.js. So let's use that select function to get that data down below. First things we're going to do let rows equal. It's going to be db.select. We also want to make sure we do await, so that's asynchronous. We're going to do, let's make sure we got our data first actually, so we'll do console.log rows. So let's test this first, make sure our data is actually coming in properly. Okay, so yeah, so we can see this is our array of data. So what we're going to do now that we have that is we're going to go over it, we're going to sort. So in this case it really won't matter since there's only 2 values, but theoretically if you have 1,000 people in there, you don't want to list all 1,000 in our server, so we're going to take the top 5, and to do that first we're going to want to sort through that. We also need to convert, you can see that this value is actually a string, so we need to convert that to a JavaScript object and then do some other modifications. But good thing is that our select statement works. So let's console.log. Let's create another empty array for our sorted data. So we're just gonna call it that. Set equal to empty. Below that, what we're gonna do is sort data equals rows.sort. And we're going to set a custom sorting function so that it's in descending order from biggest to smallest. So we're going to do A, B, and this is our comparison. This is a function. First thing we got to do is convert this, like I said, to an actual integer. So we got to do let new A equal json.parse a.value, let new b equal json.parse b.value. So we're going into this object, grabbing the value, and then converting this. Now that we have that object, let's overwrite the old value. So we're going to do a.value equals new a. Do b.value equals new b. Below that, now we can actually do our comparison. So we're going to do let val equal b value. And we're going to go again into that nested value minus a value, and again that value. So basically what we've done is we've rewritten over this, but we've converted it from this string to an actual nested object, and then we're grabbing value.value, and that what this returns is this actual number here. So this is comparing, this sort function is built into JavaScript, and we're subtracting b from a, and if one is bigger than the other, it'll sort it so that it's in descending order. So we need to return val. And what this will do, we now have, we'll console.log here actually. Console.log that stored value, and this, right now, this -10 is on top. When that returns, they'll be flipped, and it'll do that no matter if you have 2 like this or 100, it'll sort them all. Next thing we want to do, so if sorted data dot length is greater than 5. So in this case, I want the top 5 scores, but you could do 10 or whatever you want. I'm just going to do 5. We're going to slice this. So sorted data equals sorted data dot slice. We want to go 0 through 5. So this, again, it's grabbing the top 5 elements from our list. Below that now, we're going to use another embed object. So we're going to do let embed equal new discord dot message embed. First thing we're going to do is embed dot set title. We're going to call this highest ranked users. Set the description. And this we can use a dynamic value. So we're going to do top. We're just going to do sorted dot data dot data dot length. So this is whatever we've set here, it'll automatically grab the new length. So that gives us that. And now what we're going to do is map over sorted data. What this does is it goes over every element. So let's call this user. So for every user in this list, we're going to go over that. We're going to say let username equal user key dot slice 5. So this might be a little bit confusing what this is. So we're going over each of these users, and you can see we have this appended, the table name key v. So we want to slice that off. So we're going to slice the first 5 numbers here so that we only get the actual username. And then we also want to grab our score. So let's score equal user value. And we're going to do embed dot add field. We're going to do backticks again. We're going to pass in our username variable, and then just a colon for a separator. And then you need this parenthesis. So this is the first argument, is the name of the field, and then we're going to pass in our score as the actual value for it. So this will dynamically, again, based on the length. In our example, there will only be 2 entries, but there could be 5 or 10 or however many that handles it dynamically for us. And we can also do, we can set a footer. And this is stuff, if you want more information about embeds, I have a video covering this. We're just going to do this, embed made by, and we're just going to do bot.user.username. So this could be if you have a, whatever bot is making it, even if it's not for this specifically, it'll let people know which bot is actually creating this message. And finally, all we gotta do is do message.channel.send and attach our embed. So let's restart our server and make sure everything's working. Let's see, oh, typo. Alright, let's try that again. And it says row is not defined. I think it looks like right here is the issue. Pretty sure that was what happened there. Let's retry. another dumb error, which is you have to pass that in as a string. Let's give it one more shot and hope it works with no bugs. Alright, there we go. So finally it works as top 2 users because that's only how long our array is. Got our title, see this embed here, and you can see it's ranked first. And you could obviously spice this up a lot, add colors, images, stuff like that I go over in that other video that I specifically cover embeds. But for now, it's looking pretty good. So that's pretty much it for this video, and just kind of showing the basics of how to use a database so that you can store and persist data for your bot. You can actually go pretty far just using KeyV. A feature you might want to look into is that by default, we went over, it just uses that KeyV as the table name. You can actually specify namespaces. So if you pass, when you're creating it, a name, so like users or cache, whatever you want, you could name it players, but this would be the actual table name. So by default it's KeyV, but you could use this so that you can actually simulate multiple, like if you want to store multiple values, you could have the same username in multiple tables. So you can, instead of just having the score rank, you could have other data as well. Some ideas that you can do with this is like in this we just did a ranking system. You could do a currency system. You could also count like reports. So instead of having the value here being for their score, if somebody hits over 10 times being reported, so you could do a warning command. So mods could set a warning, and once they hit a certain value, they would be kicked or banned from the server. If you need even more than just multiple tables and values, you can look into something like Sequelize. This is a full, what's called an ORM, and allows you to create full tables, and is a lot more, it's not as simple as KeyV, which is why I didn't use it for this tutorial, but you can define multiple tables. So that would be, if you're trying to do something a lot more complex, I would look into something like Sequelize. So I think that's good for this video. If it helped you out, be sure to hit like. I'm going to be doing future videos covering other stuff related to Discord.js and Discord bots, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested. If you have ideas for tutorials or any questions about this video, leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. But for now, that's it. Thanks.